I have a moment, Your Honor. I
Yes.
seem to have lost a document. It's the one with the... I found it, Judge. Thank you. Thank you. Sergeant Sager, I'm going to show you exhibit marked exhibit 306 and ask if you can identify that.
Yes, it appears to be a photograph taken from the top of the steps to the landing or main entryway into the residence.
And the residence of Mr. Fleischauer.
Yes.
And although it appears to be that, do you agree with me that there are not shoes there, and it's not the same, it's sort of like the one that the state has introduced, these shoes aren't there?
Correct.
Okay. We offer exhibit 306. Okay.
Received. Anna, can you turn on? Thank you.
And exhibit 306, would that be a photo from looking down from where the kitchen is and and Chase Fleischauer's body, looking down to the entryway?
Yes.
And when you and Deputy Coleman were having a conversation with my client, Mr. Fleischauer.
And for my benefit, Mr. Ray, can you rotate it? Because I think at least I'm standing on my head. Thank you.
Yes, so, thank you. In any event, that would be looking down to the entryway, correct?
Correct.
And when the conversation was that you were having and Coleman were having with my client about where he was at, he was down in the entryway and you guys were up in the kitchen, correct?
Correct.
And I'm going to show you exhibit 307 and ask you if that's another photo looking from the entryway up towards the kitchen.
Yes.
Is that pretty accurate as to the way the entryway was? In fact, it is because of the socks. Is that accurate as to the entryway back when you were there?
Yes.
We offer exhibit 307. Objection.
Received.
So the first exhibit, 306, was looking down from the kitchen. And this exhibit, 307, is looking up, correct?
Correct.
And when you were talking to my client, Mr. Fleischauer, he was down in this entryway, correct?
Correct.
And it was at the time period right before they wanted to take pictures of him?
Correct.
And right during that time, or very shortly after that, one of the deputies, do you know which one, do you remember which deputy wanted to take the photos?
Deputy Durand was taking the photographs.
Okay. So Deputy Durand asked my client, you were present, right? There were three of you there?
In the residence?
In the entryway.
Yes.
Okay. You, Deputy Durand, and the guy known as Peaches? Paschal, what's his name?
Deputy Proshek.
Prashat, okay. So you three guys were down there with my client with his pajamas bottoms on and no shirt, no shoes, socks, right?
No, I believe it was Deputy Durand, myself, and Sergeant Coleman.
Okay, excuse me. Or is Paschal?
I believe at this point he was downstairs with Summer.
Summer, and that would be down to the lower level, correct?
Correct.
And at that point in time when you guys were there, was when Deputy Durand asked to take photos of my client, correct?
Correct.
And he said no, he didn't want any photos taken, correct?
I don't recall if he had said anything one way or the other.
Okay, whether he said that or not, and we'll get to that later, you just don't remember?
I don't recall
Okay.
him saying no or yes or,
When you, three officers had circled around him down there in the entryway, their statement?
yes, at some point, yes.
And then Deputy Durand started taking pictures of him, correct?
Correct.
And that was when he objected to it. He said no, correct? He said, I didn't want any pictures taken of myself. Did he say that?
I don't recall.
I don't remember.
If you have the transcript I could review, I don't recall him saying
Well, in any event, the pictures were taken.
correct.
And I want to show you a photo here. This is obviously your one was taken.
Okay, as long as you qualify with the writing on there, that's
Yeah.
fine.
I want to show you Exhibit 311. And do you recognize that? The picture, without the writing on it, is that a picture of Mr. Fleischauer's back?
Yes.
And you remember, was that taken that night after he was handcuffed?
Yes.
And it's a fair and accurate picture except for the writing?
Yes.
Your Honor, I think what I should do,
Judge, it defeats the whole purpose of the picture to put stickers on there. I'll stipulate to the publication of it to the jury with their knowledge that the writing wasn't on there when the picture was taken.
Thank you, so noted.
and do you agree with me, Officer Sergeant Sater, that the scratch area on his back was a scratch or a bruise going down his back?
I do not recall ever examining any injuries or any blood on him to know what they were from or.
Where were you when the pictures were taken?
I don't recall if I was nearby or where I was when that photograph was taken.
We'd offer the floor, Your Honor.
Well, I object. There's no foundation for it right now.
Okay,
Thank you.
There will be, but not right now.
all right. Now, you do agree, do you not, that at sometime during the time that you had your audio machine on, that Sommer made a comment, it must have been an accident, but it's fine? Do you agree that she said that?
I don't recall hearing that in the audio that we heard.
I didn't ask you that, please answer the question.
And again, the objection is non-responsive.
Non-responsive.
Thank you, sustained. And again, officer, it's not what you heard, you recall her saying that.
No, I do not recall her saying it.
Have you approached her?
Yes.
What? Oh, sorry. Thank you.
I want to show you a document and ask you to read the bottom of it to yourself and see if that refreshes your memory. Sir?
Yes.
Okay. And did she say that at some point in time when you were there?
Yes.
And when you talked about the pistol, whenever you did talk about it being where it was at, you always phrased your statements or testimony or reports as saying approximately, that the gun was approximately where you put that piece of paper, correct?
Correct.
Now, I may have misunderstood this, but it was approximately, how do I say, about 20 to 30 minutes after, after Sommer and Kayle were taken out of the house that you and Deputy Coleman did the paper drawing the gun, right?
I believe at that time they were still in the residence. If I'm not mistaken of when we had done that.
Could you be mistaken?
I'm trying to remember, because I know we had talked at two different points as to where everything was located. I can't remember exactly
Well,
when that was.
was the first time that you talked with Coleman when the gun was on the counter and you took it apart? Remember that?
Yes.
And then later, you and Coleman went back to the counter, and that's when you had your discussion and you placed your piece of paper on the hallway, correct?
Yes, I believe that's fair.
All right. Now I'm going to have a few questions here. Directing your, did you have a copy of the transcript, sir? Deputy?
No, I do not.
Did you have one before?
At one point I did.
No. Can I approach you now?
Yes.
I'll direct you to a certain page and line. Do you remember, direct your attention to page 6, the third line down. Do you remember my client, Kayle Fleischauer, saying, "Come on, it's my son, come on, Chase, come on, come on"?
Yes.
Okay. And you do agree that, especially on page 9, middle of the page, you're shown to say settle down, and there really wasn't here, that was my client, correct? You see that?
Yes.
You remember that? That was my client that said that?
Yes.
And when he was talking to his daughter, Summer, correct?
Summer.
Summer.
Yep.
And directing your attention to page 16, middle of the page, Kayle's identified, and he says, hey, of course, she's upset. You see that?
Yes.
And he was talking about his daughter, their statement.
Yes.
And just to clarify one issue here, on page 17, you say, hey, Chase, and that would be Chase Duran, right?
Correct. Deputy Drand.
Deputy Duran. And do you remember yourself saying that Dad seems highly intoxicated? Page 19, 4 up from the bottom.
Yes.
And you remember on the next, direct your attention on page 20, Coleman and says, so you were in the room when this happened? And Kayle says, no, I was, and then inaudible. Remember that?
Yes.
So he basically said he was not in the room when this happened, correct?
Correct.
And at the bottom, Coleman says, the top of page 21, Coleman says, but he said he wasn't in the same room. And when Coleman said that, he was referring to my client, Kayle Fleischauer, correct?
Yes, I believe that's when Sergeant Coleman was on the phone, if I'm not mistaken.
And again on page 23, Sergeant, say they're 6, 7 lines down from the top, or 6. Did you see what happened? And Kayle Fleischauer said, no. Is that correct?
Correct.
That's on the next page, what happened, and he said he had no idea, correct?
I'm sorry, did you say we're on the next page?
Yes. Go down to the bottom of page 24, 2 lines up. It says, male Kayle, I have no idea. I can't really tell what he's responding to, but it appears that he's telling you and Coleman that he didn't know what happened. You don't remember, you can just say so.
I don't remember exactly what that was referring to.
But on the next page, at the bottom, we have Summer Fleischauer telling you and Deputy Coleman that there was a gun on top of the refrigerator, or on the gun on top of the fridge. You see that?
Yes.
So she knew at that time that there was a gun on top of the fridge that night.
Objection, foundation.
Sustained.
Is that what she said to you? No, I didn't. But he gun on top of the fridge? Is that what was said?
Yes.
directing your attention to 32, page 32, 8 lines up, there's a male, and it says no, nope, 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 no. You see that?
Yes.
And then a female says nope, 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 not those, honey. And then the female says, they're my brothers. And then the male says, yep, sandals, sandals. Do you remember what that was about?
That was when we were trying to get Summer out to the ambulance, and we were trying to get her to put shoes on. The female voice at that point was Medic Bridget from New Richmond EMS.
What about the male voice that said sandals, sandals?
I believe that was Sergeant Coleman.
Okay. Where was Kayle Fleischauer at that time?
I believe at that time he was outside of the residence.
He was outside
Yes.
in the squad.
I don't know for sure where he was at that moment.
And Coleman, on the next page at the bottom, line 33, he described my client as being really, really intoxicated, correct?
Correct.
And what, I want to direct your attention to 35 lines 6 up from the bottom. You said, so it sounds like, from what I heard her say, that there's a gun normally kept on the fridge. You remember saying that?
Yes.
And were you referring to when Sommer told you that she knew there was a gun up on top of the fridge?
Objection, she didn't say she knew.
Sustained as to the form. Well, ask the question.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you.
Did you say that because you relied on what she told you about a gun being on the fridge, on top of the fridge?
Yes.
And then we have, going to the next page, we have you and Deputy Coleman deciding where the gun was at the time that you picked it up off the rug, correct, the carpet?
Correct.
And you knew at that time that you had an audio machine on your shoulder, correct?
Correct.
And you knew that everything that you were saying was being recorded, correct?
Correct.
And at no time during this time that you were drawing the 3x5 picture or drawing of the gun, going over and setting it down, you never, for the purpose of your recorder, saying, and this is approximately so far from the stool that has fallen over or Chase Fleichauer, correct?
Correct.
And that's where, on page 37, 6 lines up, Deputy Coleman in your presence described Sommer Fleischauer as effing hysterical drunk, too, he says, right?
Yes, I believe that was when he was talking on the phone with someone.
Okay, and you've known Coleman for a while,
Yes.
and you've seen people that are drunk in your job for the last, how many years, correct?
Yes.
And would it be your opinion that night that Sommer was hysterical drunk?
I guess I wouldn't necessarily term it that way.
Well, how would you term it?
I would have said that I would say that from what I saw that night, that she was rather hysterical, upset.
Well, did you determine whether or not she was drunk?
I never determined whether she was drunk or not.
Smell alcohol in her breath?
I did not indicate any alcohol on her.
What she just answered, no, I didn't smell any alcohol in her breath. Is that what you mean? You said I did not indicate any alcohol on it. Does that mean you didn't smell any?
Correct.
One second, Your Honor. I have no further questions.
Thank you. Mr. Kaiser, you redirect.
Thank you, Judge. At the point at which you found the Taurus PT 709 in the hallway, why didn't you just clear it, put it back in the hallway where you found it?
I didn't feel that that was safe, and I did not want to take the time to have to render a firearm safe while still trying to determine what's going on at a scene. And it was the quickest and easiest way to move the firearm and put it in my mind, a secure and safe location that nobody would be able to get at easily.
At the point at which you found it, you were still the only law enforcement officer in the building, right?
Correct.
And would your attention have been then focused on the firearm and not on everybody else?
I'm sorry, can you
Your
repeat?
attention would have been focused on the firearm and not on everybody else if you were trying to clear it.
Object leading.
Sustained.
Where would your attention have been focused if you had spent time trying to clear the firearm and make sure that it couldn't be fired if somebody picked it up off the floor?
On the firearm instead of the scene and the other person's on scene.
Now, you said on cross-examination in response to a question that it was chaos there, is that right?
Yes.
So in the chaos, in carrying out what you've been trained and what you train others to do, would it have made sense for you to leave, go to your car and find a camera?
No, it would not have.
And at that point, had you done that, who, if anyone, would have been left in the house with the firearm that may have been loaded?
Everybody that was in there, Summer, Kayle.
Now, since this event in April of 2018, have there been any other cases where you've had to try to remember where a pistol was located when you're at the scene?
No, I have not.
So, showing you it's been marked as Exhibit 11. If I could publish, Judge.
Yes.
Is where that piece of paper is in the hallway on the left side in Exhibit 11, where you found the Taurus PT 709.
Yes.
Your approximation isn't off by 10 feet, is it?
No.
All right. And when you picked up that pistol and moved it, how, if in any way, were you thinking about how important it would be for you to remember where it had been?
Very important.
Now, do you remember EMS coming?
Yes.
Who let them in?
Summer.
Where did she go to do that?
Down to the main entryway and to the front door.
If you recall, how was she there?
Very frantic, screaming.
Without putting up the picture, you looked out onto the deck, is that correct?
Correct.
There was as much lighting, at least, as there was in the photographs, is that correct?
Very similar, yes.
If you had gone out on the deck to look at the footprints, what would that have left on the deck?
My footprints.
What was your decision about the best way to secure the evidence of the footprints on the deck?
By not going out there and disturbing the scene.
From your vantage point, sorry, ask a different question first. As you spent time looking around this home, some of what you were looking for was bloodstains, is that correct?
Correct.
And you pointed them out to Duran because he was taking some pictures as best he could, is that right?
Correct.
Object to these questions as leading.
Just trying to get us to a place.
Well, and I understand, Mr. Kaiser, but rules of evidence still apply. Let's ask non-leading.
besides the existence of the footprints on the deck, what, if anything else, were you attentive to, given the crime scene, as might be on the deck?
I had pointed out to Deputy Drang when he was taking photographs of some blood splatter kind of back into the kitchen area, indicating that blood had gone in a certain direction.
Okay. Did you make those same observations or point those same things out to him in relation to the deck?
Yes.
What, if any, blood did you see on the deck?
I did not observe any blood on the deck.
If you remember, did you even see any blood in the vicinity of the door of the deck?
No.
No further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Gray.
Thank you, Your Honor. So, you deemed it very important when you picked up that pistol for the first time on the carpeting and put it up on the refrigerator, correct? Very important where that gun was?
Yes.
Right? And later, that gun was on the counter, correct?
Correct.
And that gun had pictures taken of it by Duran, correct?
Correct.
And at no time, and Duran was there then, at no time did you take a picture and put the gun back down where you believed it to be, and not a piece of loose paper, and have him take a picture of the gun, did you?
No, I did not.
Did you know that that piece of paper remained in the house on that carpeting for 2 days?
I did not know that.
And that you knew the piece of paper was loose, correct?
Correct.
Did you see any other pieces of paper around on the floor when you put that piece of paper there?
Not in that area, no.
How about in the hallway?
That same hallway?
That's correct.
I don't recall there being any pieces of paper in that general area.
I'm not showing this.
Thank you.
I'm going to show you what has been marked Exhibit 309. And take a look at it. Yeah, you can tell on the bottom it's a state crime lab picture which would have been taken that afternoon. Can you identify that as a picture of the hallway where you found this pistol?
Yes,
And do you see a piece of paper in that hallway?
I do.
Okay. And is it a fair and accurate description of the hallway?
Yes.
Do you know what that piece of paper is?
No, I do not.
We'd offer Exhibit 309.
Objection, no foundation.
Sustained at this time.
You do agree it is the hallway, correct?
Yes, I do.
And you know at the bottom, the Wisconsin State Crime Lab had taken that picture, correct?
Yes.
And you knew that the crime lab was there about 5 in the afternoon, correct?
I did not know when they had gotten there.
Okay, but you knew they were there that day, correct?
Correct.
And you knew that you know that this is a picture taken by them, correct?
Correct.
So it would have been taken that afternoon, correct?
Correct.
We'd offer it again.
Objection, no foundation.
And there isn't yet, Mr. Gray, but I have every reason to think there will be at some point. Thank you.
All right. One other photo. To show you Exhibit 11, and this is the state's exhibit. Looking at the state's exhibit, and you can tell it's by the state crime lab, correct?
Correct.
Do you see in that picture, which is numbered 146, do you see that piece of paper that you saw You see that piece of paper that you saw in, it's the right exhibit here. Excuse me a minute. You don't see the piece of paper that you saw in the other exhibit, do you?
No, I do not see it.
And this was taken by the crime lab, picture 146. Do you agree? Exhibit 11. They numbered at the bottom.
Correct.
May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
And you've seen exhibit 11, correct?
Correct.
And you agree that there is no piece of paper at the corner of that carpet, correct?
It appears that that photograph is cut off where you can't see that entire area, if I'm not mistaken. If I could see the number 11 again?
Sure. Goes all the way down the hallway, doesn't it?
So holding them side by side, it looks like that in exhibit 309 that you would be able to see a corner of that piece of paper if it was there, but
If it were there.
it's close and hard to tell.
Do you see a piece of paper on that exhibit?
On this exhibit?
Yes.
Right in this corner? No, I do not.
Okay. And on the other one, on exhibit 309, is there a piece of paper in that corner?
Yes, right by the corner of the rug.
And those photos are of the same hallway, correct?
Correct.
So if on one photo, there's a piece of paper lying there, we don't know what the piece of paper is, and on another photo, same crime lab, there's no piece of paper there, what would that tell you?
Objection, calls for a conclusion. And the
Calls for-
witness wasn't there when any of these pictures happened.
Calls for speculation, sustained.
I have no further questions.
Thank you. You can stand down, Sergeant. Mr. Kaiser, your next witness, please.
Katrina Beckstrom?
See, this was yours?
Ms. Beckstrom, if you'll come up towards me, please. And if you'll pivot, raise your right hand, the clerk will administer the oath.
You swear that the testimony you're about to give in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Yes.
Thank you. Come over and have a seat in the witness chair. And that microphone arm will swing in towards you, and then you can adjust the microphone. Mr. Kaiser.
Good afternoon. Would you state your name, spell your first and last name for us, and please speak up so everyone can hear you.
Katrina Beckstrom, Katrina, Beckstrom.
Could you tell us about your different jobs that you have, please?
Sure. My primary job is I lead our data and analytics team for Health Partners. And I have a second job as an emergency medical technician with the New Richmond Area Ambulance Service.
What is Health Partners?
Health Partners is an integrated healthcare company in the Twin Cities.
What's your job in New Richmond?
I'm an advanced emergency medical technician.
How long have you been an emergency medical technician?
Going on 7.5 years, I believe.
What education and training do you have to be an emergency medical technician?
I've gone through 2 courses at WITC, the technical college, related to emergency medical services.
Do you, are you licensed and certified as an emergency medical technician?
Yes, I
And are
am.
you required to maintain continuing education in that field to keep those certifications and license?
Yes, I am.
What makes you an advanced emergency medical technician?
I've gone through a second course that is more focused on patient assessment and being able to provide more advanced care and start IVs.
Were you doing the job of being an advanced emergency medical technician on April 14th, 2018?
Yes, I was.
At about 4 o'clock or shortly after that in the morning, where were you?
I was at the ambulance station in New Richmond.
Is that in the city of New Richmond?
Yes, it is.
All right. Were you waiting for the possibility of a call?
Yes, I was on call that morning.
At about 4:13 in the morning, what, if any, dispatch did you receive?
We received a page for a gunshot wound to the head.
Where was that?
It was in the town of Richmond, I believe.
And that's in St. Croix County?
Yes, it is.
Who dispatched you?
St. Croix County Dispatch.
And who was there with you waiting for a call that morning?
My partner that shift was Bridget Edwards, who was a paramedic.
Can you tell us all what the difference between an emergency medical technician and a paramedic is?
Sure, a paramedic has more advanced training, can provide higher level of care to patients.
Once you were told what the call was and the dispatch call had come out, where did you and paramedic Edwards go?
We went right to our ambulance in the garage.
Did you have to load it or all, or?
No, it's ready to go, stocked, and we just get in and leave the station.
So fairly momentary from the call till when you left the station.
Correct.
Who drove?
Bridget.
How was the weather?
The weather was terrible. We were in the midst of a snowstorm. And so there was a lot of blowing, drifting snow and icy roads.
Are you able to monitor other first responder traffic in the ambulance while you're on your way to the scene?
Yes, through the
How do you do
radio.
With the what?
Yes, through the radio.
Do you know about how long it took you to get there?
It took us about 7 minutes.
When, was that an address with which you or Ms. Edwards were familiar?
No, it was not.
How did you go about figuring out where you were going?
We're familiar with the area roads, and while one drives, the other can navigate on their phone oftentimes.
Okay. Use your phone. Okay. Did you go lights and siren?
Yes, we did.
Who else was dispatched to that scene?
Law enforcement.
While you're on your way there, who, if anyone, arrived there?
New Richmond Police Department.
Was the New Richmond police officer already there by the time you got there?
Yes, he was.
Oh, was that Sergeant Jake Sather
Yes, it
or
was.
Sather?
Yes.
Did you go lights and siren all the way to the house?
Yes, we did.
Exhibit 2. Has to publish Exhibit 2, Your Honor.
Granted?
Thank you. Does Exhibit 2 truly and accurately show the home you went to?
Yes, it does.
If you recall, where, if anywhere, in relation to the house, did you bring the ambulance?
We drove into the driveway and parked just on the right side of the garage,
Backed in or fronted?
front in.
There's a black vehicle in Exhibit 2. Was that there when you were there?
No, it was not.
And it's also daylight out in Exhibit 2. How was it when you got there?
It was dark and the
still
weather
snowing?
was bad. Yeah.
Thank you. After paramedic Edwards stopped the ambulance in the driveway where you described, what did you do?
I got out and started getting our equipment out of the side compartment of the ambulance.
And what was paramedic Edwards doing?
She went into the back of the ambulance to grab additional equipment.
What did you grab?
I grabbed our Lucas device.
Which is what?
It's a device that's used to do chest compressions during CPR.
Where did you go then? You yourself. Use an interesting word. Unless I say otherwise, I will only be talking about you personally, okay?
Okay.
All right, so where did you go then?
I went to the front door.
Who, if anyone, was at the front door?
Summer was at the front door.
Was the door open?
Yes.
What was she doing?
She was yelling frantically for us to help her brother.
Now, you've used her name Summer today because since then you've learned who she is. Did you know her before this?
No, I did not.
Did you know any of the people in this case?
No, I did not.
Where did you go then?
I went inside and was directed to the dining room by Sergeant Sather.
What did you find there?
I found someone laying on their back with a man laying on top of him.
Asked to publish Exhibit 19.
Granted.
So, as to the patient, does this show the position approximately that the patient was in when you arrived?
Yes.
Exhibit 19? All right. The person who was laying on top of him, can you describe where that person was in relation to the patient?
Sure. He was lying over his chest from the left side of the patient, laying over the chest.
What, if anything, was the person doing who was laying on the patient?
They were just laying there.
Excuse me, Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a brief recess to inform your opinions. If you have any discussions, start your deliberations. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. Thank you.
All rise.
Be seated, thank you. It's been brought to the court's attention again that there are visual emotions that are being displayed, and at least according to Mr. Gray, to the distraction of the jury. While the court is certainly mindful of this particular case and the emotions that it's going to evoke, I have to, however, insist that everyone maintains a level of composure that does not become distracting. And if you can't control your emotions to the point of becoming a distraction, I'm going to ask that you be seated in the last row. So that's your call, but if it's brought to my attention again, and I notice that jurors are paying more attention to the gallery than they are the evidence, I'll make the call myself. With that said, take 5 minutes. Yes, Mr. Gray.
One of the problems is that they're looking at this screen and their peripheral vision is right there, Judge.
Well, and I understand that, and arguably I can ask the jury to watch this screen, which they did during the playback of the audio with Sergeant Sather. So we can try that as well, Mr. Gray, and I might simply mention that to the bailiff that their visuals might be enhanced by watching the screen near the jury door.
Judge, could I ask, though, for purposes of the appellate record, should this become an issue because it's such a big deal that the record reflect that even though the victim and the victim's mother and sister are crying, that they have not made any audible sounds during the time complained of?
And Mr. Kaiser, I will acknowledge that I've not heard anything audibly. However, again, I will accept the offer of proof by Mr. Gray. You're both officers of the court, and I trust neither one of you is misleading me. Thank you. 5 minutes.